Hey guys, season 2026 has arrived, and with it, a lot of changes to items and builds overall. And naturally, I've been getting a lot of questions about what Aphelios is supposed to build now. So, it's time for a new build guide. Take this with a little bit of a grain of salt though, because it's still super early into the season. A lot of things are probably still going to get changed, and I can't guarantee that what I say in this video is going to be like super accurate for the whole season, of course. Anyway, you get what I mean. First things first, runes. These are the runes I've basically been taking every single game since the new season started. PTA, Triumph, Bloodline, Coup de Grace or Cut Down, and then Inspiration Secondary with Cashback and Triple Tonic. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory. PTA has been the best keystone for Aphelios since forever, basically. I wouldn't really recommend other keystones right now, especially if you're not super confident in your Aphelios and you're just starting out. I'd just go with PTA pretty much every game. It works wonders. Conqueror can be good into super beefy front lines, same for your lethal tempo, but you might just shoot yourself in the foot with it. Triumph and Bloodline, also pretty self-explanatory. Bloodline, lifesteal is hard to get, lifesteal is super valuable. It's just the best option. Between Coup de Grace and Cut Down, you can I kind of just pick between these two depending on what I had for breakfast. Like, you can do both are good, doesn't really matter that much. And then most importantly, arguably, Inspiration Secondary is really good this season with Cashback and Triple Tonic. Cashback has been good for a minute. It's even better now this season because of how many items you stack and how fast you get them, which just makes Cashback give you even more value. And then Triple Tonic is just the best secondary option, really. You can do Cosmic and stuff if you really want to. If you feel like you have more success on Cosmic Insight or something like that, go for it. It doesn't matter that much, in my opinion. The most important thing is that you take Cashback, because Cashback is busted. It's probably going to get nerfed at some point during the season. It's really good right now. I do want to talk quickly about summoners, even though not much has changed. Barrier and Flash is still mostly the most optimal setup, but I have been messing around with Ghosts a little bit again this season because I feel like a lot of lanes are less volatile now and you get to scale a lot safer because you don't actually trade that much, which is why Barrier kind of falls off a bit faster in my opinion. It's a bit of a risk if you do end up needing Barrier early for early fights, but if you don't, then Ghost is just a really good payoff and just scales better. Maybe go for it, maybe not. For the max order, what I do for my max order usually is kind of similar every game, but I feel like you can adapt it a lot more than people give it credit for. I usually just do like 3 to 4 points Q, also 3 to 4 points into E, and then start maxing W from there on out. You can put more points into E or straight up max it if you're stomping really hard or if their team's full of squishies. If you're losing early, I recommend putting points in W faster because it just feels better if you're behind, or if they have a really beefy front line, you can also start putting points in W earlier, or very specifically, if you have an engage versus engage support matchup, putting points in W early is also really good because it just feels better to have early attack speed for longer fights early, which is usually what happens with engage versus engage supports. For starter items, real quick, Thorin's Blade, still the best option. Not much more to say there. Just go Deep Blade on the health pot. It's that simple. Just wanted to be said. As for boots in particular, I do recommend getting tier 1 boots relatively early with on your second or third base at the latest. And then your tier 2 boots, honestly, just depending on when you need it. I pretty much always go for Berserker Griefs these days still. A lot of people have been liking Swifties. I personally have not been that big of a fan of it. I don't really build it, but if you feel like it's good, then go for it. Defensive boots like Tabbies or Merc Treads also can be valid when you really need it. They're fine options. I don't go for them often. I probably should do it more often. If you feel like you should build them, go for it. All right, the real tea. First item, Stormrazor has been reintroduced into the game and it is as good as it always has been for Aphelios. It is really good and you should build it first every game. The build path might look a bit whack and you really want an early BF sword to be able to build it properly. A lot of people complain about that. I think it's actually not that bad because getting a BF sword this season is actually easier than last because waves spawn more often and you get to 1300 gold in lane a lot faster. Like ideally you can hit it like at 4 minutes 30 after a couple of waves and then just base for the BF and you're good to go. That's ideally the goal. If you cannot get that BF buy on your first base, I recommend buying something like Boots and Call on your first base if you have like a whack 1800 gold or something. If you still can't get it on your second base, then you're probably gonna have to build into Collector. Collector is still fine as a first item, but it's not a Stormrazor. The reason why it's so good is it makes up for his one major weakness, which is his mobility. And on top of that, it doesn't really do less damage than Collector overall either, because it gives attack speed for more DPS. And on top of that, the damage passive you proc a lot. Aphelios procs it a lot because of how Stormrazor interacts with his entire kit, basically. Like, you can proc Stormrazor with an auto attack, jump into your Severum Q, and by the end of it, you will have another proc ready most of the times. Like, it is very, very broken on Aphelios specifically. He uses it better than most other AD carries, and it's just a very, very nice item for him. For your second item, ideally, you should always go for Infinity Edge. It has been changed a little bit this season. It has less crit strike damage, but more AD, but it's also a little bit more expensive by 50 gold, I think. It's still good. If you have the money for the components, you should build it second, I think, unless there's like super crazy tanks on the enemy team and you need a Last Whisper item first, but ideally, IE still the best second item spike by far. Third item, who could have guessed it? A Last Whisper item, because it just gives you the most DPS on your third item. I will say Mortal Reminder got a lot more attractive this season because of its price change and it being a lot cheaper than LDR now. The build path is still worse than LDR in a way, and I think the Giant Slayer passive for LDR is bait in a lot of games, which is why sometimes you want to build Mortal Reminder now, even into teams that don't necessarily have a lot of healing. But LDR, obviously really, really good, especially if the enemy top laner is stomping yours and you're going to be gapped by 3 to 4 levels, then the Giant Slayer passive is, into most champions, going to come in very clutch. Very good third item. Fourth item. For the fourth item, I've usually been going Phantom Dancer. A lot of people are still not very convinced by Phantom Dancer. I have been loving it. It's been good the last season. It's still good this season. The main reason you want it is because its stats are absurd. 10% movement speed for a champion like Aphel that doesn't have a lot of mobility is a blessing, really, and the attack speed also feels really nice. A lot of people say Aphel doesn't utilize attack speed as much. I think that's not particularly true, and it's still a very, very good item on him. If you really feel like you don't need movement speed or attack speed against really squishy teams or something, you can also do Shield Bow 4th. I do think Shield Bow 4th fell off a little bit this season because you generally get more items faster anyway, and your 5th and 6th item options are gonna be high AD options again anyway. You're not gonna build attack speed items a lot for your 5th and 6th item slot. So I think Shield Bow fell off a little bit there because you kind of want a Zeal item more this patch. And if you build Shield Bow, you're going to be stuck on 370 MS for the rest of the game, basically. Unless you have like a lot of Cloud Drakes, or you have a support that gives you a lot of mobility like Zillion or a Lulu or that type of stuff. Hurricane is, of course, also fine as a 4th item. I don't like it that much because I think the passive itself is very bait in a lot of situations and doesn't actually have that much impact in the game, and the stats from PD just outclass it a bit. But in a game where they have like 4 melee champions and they just play a crazy dive comp to just come into you, it has value. Of course, you can build it into comps like that, but generally I feel like it is very outclassed by Phantom Dancer. You might be wondering why I haven't been talking about a lot of other new items like Fiendhunter bolts or the Hexoptics C44. The main reason being they're pretty bad on Aphelios, unfortunately. Both of these are getting buffed next patch, but I still think they're not going to be very ideal for Aphel in particular. Hexoptics C44 in general is just a bad item right now. I think the only way it could be good on Aphelios is by it being completely broken on every AD carry. Aphel is not a champion that cares about spacing at max range all the time. He can use it with Calibrum, of course, but the second you hop into a fight with like red-white, you are not going to make use of Hexoptics. You will not. It's pretty bad in that regard. You don't care about spacing at max range all the time as much as like a Jinx would, or a Caitlyn would, or a Zeri would, that type of stuff. So it's not really good on him, and it probably will not be in the future, but I could be wrong about that depending on how it gets buffed. Fiendhunter Bolt, in theory, is not that bad. It gives him the ult haste as well, which is nice, but not that necessary for him. And then, of course, the passive. The thing with the passive is it sounds nice in theory, but attack speed is not really usually what Aphel needs for his auto attacks right after he casts his ult, like a Zeri or a Twitch that could have used this item more, or a Vayne. And the critical strike being guaranteed is nice, but at the end of the day, you're gonna get guaranteed critical strikes pretty fast in this meta because of how fast you get your crit items. And the bonus damage for if it would already crit is not really, it's not really doing it. 10%, it's gonna get buffed to 15% next patch too, I believe, but it's just not enough. I still think if you want a Zeal item, it just gets outclassed by PD, because PD just gives you DPS and mobility more consistently. I will also say real quick, Phantom Dancer or Zeal items in general can also be built earlier if you are stomping in a game really hard. There are some slots where Phantom Dancer could be built third or second even if you're stomping really hard. And it's basically used as almost like a bridging item where like it's cheap, you get it fast, and then you can build into your next crit item faster and you just stack up on crit that way even faster. Even though it's like a weaker third item spike in a way, you get it faster, which makes it better again. If you feel like it could be good earlier in some games, go for it. I've done it like second or third item a couple times this patch, but I think fourth item is usually where you would want to buy it. Your fifth item, once you've achieved your 100% crit, is mostly still going to be Bloodthirster, I think. Or if they have a lot of CC and magic resist, you're gonna pick his weird distant cousin. They just give you everything Aphel wants from a fifth item. They give you sustain, survivability, and more damage. And that is pretty much all he wants. There are some more niche fifth item options like Borg if you're playing against crazy HP stackers, or Kraken even if you really feel like you do not need more sustain at all. It's a bit more risky, I think, but if you feel confident about it, go for it. It's not really gonna end up being that much more damage necessarily, but you get more movement speed from it too. You can build it. I still think most of the time Bloodthirster 5th it's hard to beat. But then we have a 6th item, of course, because of how AD carries work this season. For 6th item, the most obvious cherry on top would be Guardian Angel, of course, for a lot of people. I am not really a fan of Guardian Angel unless you're really far ahead in a game. If you're behind and people pick you off and you proc the GA passive, you usually just die anyway. The only way it's good is if you can force like absurdly hard when you're ahead and then die, and it doesn't matter because your team cleans up the rest. But generally, it's not a bad item. Good to top off your build at 6th item. If you're not a fan of the item either, just pick one of the other options I just mentioned, like Mercurials. You can stack both BT and Mercurials, or BT and Borg, or Kraken in the last item, or even Maw. You know, if you'd need even more magic resist. A lot of items can work for him in 6th slot, for sure. Some people have asked about a bit more niche items, I'd say, like Jack Show or Randuin's or Death's Dance. In general, I feel like tank items, they sound nice in theory, but you don't really ever need them over just building one of the more offensive options that give you sustain anyway. If the enemy team is running like double wind shitters in their solo lanes and they have a crit marksman as well on bot lane, sure, go for Randuin's, right? It's gonna be amazing into teams like that. But apart from those like very niche scenarios, I think you're better off just building. You're still better off building marksman items. And I think that's it pretty much. His build is pretty straightforward, I think, this patch. Stormraiser is definitely the best addition for FL on this patch, and partially also why he's so broken right now. It'll probably get nerfed in the future as well. Fiendhunter and Hexbolts are getting buffed next patch, so those might be a little bit better. On other champions, I don't think they're gonna be that good on FL anyway. I could be wrong about Fiendhunters, but I'm not sure. But apart from that, I think his build has been pretty much figured out. If you have any suggestions, or if you feel like I skipped over something or didn't talk about something, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer as much as I can, or head on over to Twitch, where I'll be streaming a lot these days anyway, and I'll try to answer your questions there if you have something more specific. But yeah, good luck on the Rift. Happy grinding. Hope you guys have a good start to the season. Take care. Peace out. Bye-bye.